Artificial intelligence is an old reoccurring fixation of mine. Pretty sure it goes back to single digits. It tends to fade after a while, but I would usually come back to it within a couple of years. With the generative AI boom, or the second pandemic of the 2020s, I thought that interest was gone for good. AI is everywhere, it's a shallow trick, and it ruins everything you love. Brought to you by the worst people on Earth, against your will, at your expense. So what happened? Why am I even talking about AI again? Well, if I had a nickel for every time a self-taught British game developer turned AI creator made AI interesting to me, I would have 2 nickels. It's not a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice. First, with the cybernetics and artificial life researcher Steve Grand, most famous for his late 90s PC game series, Creatures. Second, and much more recently, Twitch streamer Vettel987, because of course I also saw the documentary about the funny turtle man and his AI VTubers. So thanks to their inspiration, my personal interest, my need to better criticize tech companies and billionaires, and the vain hope that I will someday earn money despite the fact that nothing I've learned about AI has economic value, especially since I keep criticizing tech companies and billionaires, I've been learning about AI. I probably need to explain how for context. Mostly the usual scattered knowledge accumulation that I tend to have, but slightly more persistent. Not just Wikipedia, but also the academic papers and the citations. And more than that, but I don't want to get into all of it. Now I can actually understand some of the academic papers that looked interesting months ago. Mostly. I don't really do math, but I think I've got most of the important concepts. My focus has been on theory and trying to understand what intelligence is. In most AI research, there is far too much emphasis on math, physics, and computer science. This is at least partially appropriate for narrow AI research, where it's just about making practical tools that process data. For making systems that are supposed to be smart like people, it's useless. I've seen very compelling arguments to the effect that we shouldn't be researching that at all, and that it's inherently problematic. I am a Linux guy. I don't like talking to computers because it's like walking in place to drive your car, etc. But thinking about thinking is interesting to me, and I think it's what I'm good at. I've researched neuroanatomy, the parts of intelligence outside of language, made observations and notes on my own mind, and I already understood a lot of important things about society, media, and game design that I believe are very relevant to the subject of AI. So, I can at least say that, of the AI research I've seen, even the most serious concepts like world models have almost nothing as far as general intelligence, in ways that cannot change with scale. To my knowledge, most, if not all, AI can't even learn. They're like a static photograph of a very simplified brain. The neural networks are frozen to avoid things like catastrophic forgetting. The magnitude of time and resources used for AI training reflects a brute force approach that falls apart outside of that training. So every time something like a large language model starts up, it's back to zero. There are product-level concepts to work around this, like memory and prompting tricks, which I haven't really studied. But that's not the same as a neural network that can learn. And then, adjusting the weights of a neural network in response to the data it processes is the most basic and generous definition of learning. The natural brain is a physical machine made out of cells with many distinct parts, which is capable of changing its form and function. The weird fascists who warn of a runaway superintelligence talk about how it needs to be made explicitly incapable of self-improving, setting its own goals, or acting independently, which would make it less intelligent than anything with a spine and many things without. They think they're competing against PhDs and winning, when they're really competing against mammals and losing. Though it ought to be noted that they're also losing against birds, cephalopods, at least a few reptiles, and then, within this delusional belief that they're creating a genuinely intelligent being, they talk constantly about how it must be shackled and made subservient to keep humanity on top of the food chain. I've seen little, if any, effort to differentiate this from slaver economic differences. Sorry, I grew up in Texas. The assumption that a more powerful and intelligent being would naturally pose a threat to humanity reflects the people making that assumption. As Steve Grand has said, becoming more intelligent makes us more accepting, kind, and cooperative. Conquering and enslaving is what stupid people do. Yeah, that explains a lot. Has anyone made an AI that can read a book? Not summarize, read it. Reading isn't the same as throwing all the text in a book into a blender. It's a subjective process, and that process matters. And again, if we put aside language models in favor of things like world models, that are supposed to have some understanding of physics trained into them instead of just language, it's so far from human-like intelligence that it's almost tragic. Have you ever listened to a radio drama? If not, just look up NPR Star Wars radio drama from the 1980s. It's on archive.org and it's fantastic. Just give it a few minutes and maybe finish the video first, because I don't think my audience is coming back from that. It should be well under 3 minutes for you to realize just how far a physics predictor is from the human mind. I'll wrap it up here, partly because I think I just gave my audience something better to listen to, and partly because I also now want to listen to the Star Wars radio series. I'm trying to work toward an easier format where I can just record my thoughts and put them online. Sort of a video web log, if you will. And I do wonder if there's an easier way to say that. If you want to hear more of my thoughts on AI, ask in the comments. I have too many thoughts, ideas, and opinions to turn into videos on my own initiative. I have a bunch of comments to make on the hypothetical paperclip maximizer, the problems with autonomous vehicles, and for the record, Steve Grand agrees that they're just terrible. Anyways, that's it. Go listen to Star Wars. For the record, choosing a sci-fi series that has a significant narrative around AI and some degree of political relevance wasn't intentional. I just don't know that many radio dramas. Pay attention while you listen, and remember what you observe the next time someone tries to tell you that predictive text is conscious. Later, folks.